Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.
Happy Sunday, guys. It's Sunday, and today, after a very busy weekend, usually I don't live stream during the weekends, but recently things have happened over the weekend that have required a reaction from me. All right, so that reaction essentially means I have to come up and talk about the updates that have just come up in the media. So today, President Trump releases yet another update about tariffs, while the Democrat Party is busy trying to convince the voters and the Supreme Court that President Trump shouldn't have the power to negotiate with other foreign powers with tariffs, even though those foreign powers have been given power by their people to negotiate with tariffs. They want to essentially tie President Trump's hands, both hands behind his back, so that his presidency will not be able to deliver on the things he promised the American people. So while they're busy doing all of that, the president released this update today. And I'm sure that many of them are seething wherever they are this Lord's Day, and trying to figure out what they can say to further discredit what President Trump has done. We're going to also jump into the comment section. It's been a few days since I've covered the comments in the comment section. We're going to take a look at some of the comments, some of your comments, and we're also going to be responding to your comments in the chat. So while we're in the opening stages, please consider subscribing if you like our very balanced, I'll use the word balanced, way of presenting the news and updates, and you like the easygoing manner with which we go about things. Please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing the video. And with our live streams are driven by the conversation in the chat. So feel free to let your voice be heard in the chat. Okay. I need to make sure I am streaming on the right platforms. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. So, So in a massive update, President Trump sent out a truth today, about an hour or so ago, about 4 hours ago. And he said this to the American people. I'm going to just zoom in so that you can see it for yourself. All right. People that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world, with almost no inflation and a record stock market price. 401ks are highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt, which is $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. a dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. Now, that's massive. That's massive. So the president is saying, in essence, that every American who doesn't fit the income brackets, okay, when he says high income people, he means people who earn above a certain scale. They will all be getting a dividend check of $2,000 a person. Now, the news coverage on this is really weird because you have 16 right-leaning outlets. Okay, when we look at ground news, we have 16 right-leaning outlets covering this announcement and 12 left-leaning outlets covering the news. So the summary here is that amid ongoing debate over his trade policy, Trump announced on Sunday that most Americans will receive at least $2,000 from tariff revenue without specifying when or who qualifies. That's not true. Hey, Canarican, yes, I did. I came out on the weekend. Yesterday, I wanted to come out, but I had an appointment. My wife and I had an appointment. It was a family thing, and we needed to sort out some issues. So already we're seeing some skewed information. His announcement specified who would qualify. Anyone who doesn't qualify or who isn't deemed a high income earner qualifies to receive these dividend checks. So while the Democrats are busy fighting him over tariffs, Trump is saying these tariffs are good for the American people. And if you're not a high income earner, you get a dividend check of $2,000. The Democrats continually say that he's trying to take health care from the American people. While in an announcement released today, he is announcing that the regular guy is going to get a dividend check of $2,000. All right. Now, we might jump into the Obamacare conversation because my feed is full of stuff and I always have a hard time picking the right thing to discuss with you guys. But I hope today we can, have a conversation. We could do a chat. We could have videos. Like today, it's a choose your adventure thing. I'm opening up with this announcement where we're going to talk about it. You let me know your thoughts and your opinion about this entire thing. And then we will, let's have a conversation, okay? Today is Sunday. I'm hanging out with my people, okay? Don't forget to share, like the video. It helps out a whole lot. Canary King says, you have to take time off. So good you took time off yesterday. I wouldn't call what I did yesterday time off. We had to work out some documentation issues. And my wife and I were basically going through documentation and stuff. It was essentially work. But it's necessary work, and we got it done. So we're grateful for that. To be honest, yes, I need to kind of take time off, but in a way, I don't see this as work. I see this as hanging out with my friends. All right. And whenever I do, I feel refreshed. And whenever we have these very vibrant conversations, every time the live stream is vibrant, I feel happy, we actually had a good talk. It was a good talk. So that's how I feel. But you're right. I do need to take a break because sometimes it can eventually start, the strain of going live every day can begin to, to get to me. All right, now my wife doesn't know I'm live. I snuck away to hang out with you guys. All right, she's sending me text messages. So I'm going to pretend like, I am paying attention to her, and I'm going to do something she's asked me to. So just hang on. She asked me to send a message to my oldest. So I'm going to just slide to the door, do that, and come back. Don't tell her I'm live. Just hang on. All right, guys. All right, so this is not cheating. I am not cheating on my wife. Okay, so all right, so I might be sneaking around, but I'm not cheating. So next chat, everyone fought him on the tariffs, including the Republicans. Look, there are people like, the rhinos, Republican in name only. The rhinos have essentially betrayed the conservatives. It wasn't until Trump showed up that conservatives began to have some faith about being engaged in the political process. Because, okay, so the rhinos gave us the wars in the Middle East. They gave us compromise after compromise with liberals and Democrats and far leftists, which stripped away the influence of conservatives over the years. So it's been a bitter betrayal, but it's good to see that certain MAGA Republicans are standing up to them. But we still have a lot of Judases in the camp. For example, I've seen a video of Mike Pence going around, making the rounds, trying to detract or degrade Trump's influence in the conservative circles. And I find that very laughable because he couldn't get past the primaries the last time. So essentially, he's still trying to make a play for office in 2028. We'll see what happens there. Back in the chat, please send your messages in the chat. Send your messages in the chat. Let's have a conversation. All right, so let me read more of this news because the chat is getting me, is getting me to veer off this announcement. So let me just read the announcement. So according to the news, the announcement didn't specify when or who qualifies. Well, the who was specified. The when is as soon as the Democrats get off his back and let him do what he is meant to do. Okay, because he spent the last 10 months in and out of court trying to get him to not impose tariffs on other countries that have been imposing tariffs on the United States for years. That makes no sense to me. Let me know in the chat if that makes sense at all. If a country like China is imposing tariffs or making business difficult for American farmers or American business people to do business in China or in Europe, you have that happening in Europe as well. Why shouldn't the president use his powers to make these countries behave? So you have politicians who are more than happy to see Americans or American businesses cheated on the world stage. As long as that's happening, as long as President Trump looks bad, they are fine. But, anyone who's affected by it, be damned. Okay? Look, I believe that politicians who act that way should be noted. You need to pay attention to them, and you need to make sure they don't get back into office. It's a very simple process, but you know what? The political system has been infiltrated by liars and schemers, and essentially most voters are low information voters, both on the left and on the right. You have people on the right who should know better, who should know who to vote, and who should actually get involved in the voting process, but they don't. So they have these people, these career politicians, coming back again and again, doing the same thing to the American people. So for me, it's just frustrating because these things shouldn't be happening. The American people deserve the right kind of representation in Congress and also in the presidency. Through the first 3 quarters of this year, Treasury Department recorded $195 billion in tariff duties, which fund a policy aiming to restore manufacturing jobs and shift tax burdens. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent told CNBC that $2,000 dividends form is unsettled and could include tax changes rather than immediate checks, while Bitcoin and Ether prices nudged higher after the announcement. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments challenging the tariffs after lower federal courts ruled them an overreach, and analysts say direct tariff payments would require Congress approval. Look at this insanity. First off, he's being challenged in court that a power that is well within presidential powers is overreach. It's similar to what happened in the first term. They tried very hard to make sure he couldn't get anything done. They tied both hands behind his back. He had a cabinet full of traitors. And then suddenly, we find out that everyone in there that was working against him were plants, and it was all orchestrated to ensure that he was a lame duck president from day one. Now he enters into his second term roaring and bulldozing all of those barriers, and they're saying it's overreach. It is basically within his presidential powers, if anyone is honest, because look, it's dishonest if we say, you say, and I say that everything that's been going on for the first 10 months of President Trump's second term, has been above bar. I watched a video yesterday that basically showed that between 1968 and today, President Trump has had over 75% lawsuits against his presidency, or shall I say court injunctions. He has had more court orders issued against him to prevent him from doing what he's meant to be doing than any other president. And people might say, well, isn't that proof that he's he's acting against the Constitution? About 25 of those cases have been taken to the Supreme Court, and he's won 22 of the 25. So how is that him breaching the Constitution? He has won over 90% of those cases. So it is a clear case of lawfare. Everyone is seeing it. We would be dishonest if we didn't call it out for what it is. It is lawfare that has followed him into his presidency. They carried out lawfare against him before the elections, during the elections, and after the elections. Those attacks have morphed into federal judges issuing injunctions to keep him from carrying out his presidential powers. Something as simple as removing illegal aliens from the country, well within his presidential powers, but people keep preventing him from doing that. Analysts say direct tariff payments could require Congress approval. Well, it's a payment from the coffers of the government, but it is a promise that this is available to the American people. If Congress says you can't give the American people $2,000, but the same members of Congress turn around to tell you he's taking food, EBT food, or SNAP benefits from people. People are going hungry. And at the same time, they turn around and say you can't give the people $2,000. So which is it? Because the same group are going to stand up and say he's trying to buy votes. That's what, look guys, take my word for it. If everything plays out to the point where it's time for him to issue these dividend checks, the argument is going to be a president is trying to buy votes by issuing these dividend checks. If it doesn't pan out that way, call me out. But right now, the Democrats have shown their hand. They've shown how duplicitous they are, how dishonest they are, how hypocritical they are, and they will stop at nothing. They are shameless. They will do anything, say anything in order to get their way. Okay, and one more line of summary. Economists warn tariffs will raise customer price. This is old news. Customer prices on what? The United States of America doesn't consume 100% imported goods. There are goods that are produced inside of the United States. So if someone is bringing in tariffed goods, there is competition inside of the United States that people can opt for. So it's just a mischaracterization of the situation. If the United States imported 100% of what it consumed, then that could be a conversation. All right, so let's jump into the chat. The tariffs were wildly unpopular, except for those of us that understand how China was taking the US for a ride. Obama, W. Bush, Clinton, and so on sold us down the river. That's true. All right, if you're watching, jump into the chat. We need you in the chat. All right, if you're watching, jump into the chat. And don't forget to like and share the video. We had these presidents, Republican and Democrat, that made these deals that essentially sold the American people to China. How is it that the American people aren't that's a sensitive way to say it, but so I'm not going to say it. It can be clipped out of context and someone will say that I'm calling for an armed revolution in the United States. I'm not. But the American people should be very upset at what these presidents did. They sent jobs and manufacturing overseas. Yes, you could say it made the cost of these items cheaper. But you don't know the billions or trillions by now dollars worth of intellectual property that China has stolen in creating a parallel market where a business in the United States sends schematics or designs to them to mass produce. They take those designs, move to a different factory, and create competition for those designs. Then they sell those knockoffs to third world countries. And all of those products were products that could have been sold by American businesses to the third world countries, possibly at a subsidized rate. But China took those products, created the knockoffs, and shipped them off to the third world, so that by the time the American products arrive in the third world countries, you don't need them. They're already using the knockoffs. All right, keep your chats coming. I'll get to your chat. Thank you, Lauren. I'm going to get to your chat. W. Bush really damaged the US. It will take two to three generations to recover. Yeah. Sadly, that's the way it works. One politician gets everyone riled up. Rah, we're going to do this thing. It is a big win for the American people. And then, a few years down the line, you find out that it was a massive disaster. Okay. Pence sold out Trump, so did the conservatives, Mitch McConnell and the like. Yeah, we saw that happening in real time. And anyone who said otherwise was labeled a threat to democracy. They really derailed Trump's first term. Listen, under Clinton and W. Bush, they uprooted the entire American industrial I just said that. Entire American industrial manufacturing sector and shipped it to China, burning down the middle class and enriching a hostile adversary. And they enriched themselves too. I wish the American political class were altruistic and all they wanted to do was give China and other third world countries a fighting chance. No, they all got backroom deals. They all got multi-million-dollar deals and so on by facilitating those arrangements. Can you imagine that? Yeah. It was sad watching America struggle to produce masks during the pandemic. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I can imagine that. In Nigeria, my home country, we import toothpicks. Imagine a country that has lost the ability to produce toothpicks. Toothpicks are imported from China. So seeing the United States heading in that direction, it has been alarming to me, because I've seen how destructive it is to Nigeria and to the Nigerian economy. The valuation of our currency, it has been so destroyed that it takes almost 1,500 of Nigerian naira to get $1. So it is crazy when you see an administration or several administrations removing the country's ability to produce, toothpicks. We import toothpicks. It's insane, but it is true. Lauren says the U.S. has gained just $215 billion in tariffs revenue in 2025. There are 260 million U.S. adults. It would cost $260 billion to send them all $1,000 checks. 1,000 times 250. Well, remember, there is a qualification. There's a qualification. There's the people who are high earners. Those will not be getting those checks. And I don't think those checks are going to minors. Those checks will not be going to minors. I don't think they will be. So the math, again, look, there are qualifiers to that statement by President Trump. I mean, the message is right there. All right. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people. It is not including high-income people. High-income people could be people who earn more than $100,000 a year. Okay, those could be termed high-income people. Those qualifications are yet to be seen. So we're going to stand by to see how that pans out. Okay, now. Again, there's the question of, will Congress allow those checks to be paid out, even if in the end the math adds up? And President Trump is just getting started. Now, remember, there are other tariff negotiations that are taking place. And every time there's a court case hindering him from, or that is challenging his right to use tariffs on other countries, it emboldens some other countries or some other countries from not coming to the negotiating table. So I think they've calculated that there's a potential that a lot more will be earned. It's just that these court cases are sending a signal which is causing other countries that should be at the negotiating table now to say, well, we have time, because it's very likely that if we tough this out, we're going to come out on the other side and President Trump would not have gotten his way. We keep our tariffs in place and the U.S. doesn't tariff us. So we're still watching to see how that pans out. All right. Lauren says, Trump pretends there's an endless amount of tariff revenue. There isn't. If he took every cent of tariff revenue and sent every adult a check, it wouldn't come close to $1,000 per adult. We're still that comment is on the heels of the previous numbers you sent in. And I've said there is a cutoff. Not every American citizen will get it. There's a cutoff in age, and I think there's a cutoff in earning. Okay, so that's what I think. We're going to find out the details. Now, time is our friend, Lauren. Time is our friend. We will watch what's going on and then we will be the first to say, hey, where are the checks? I thought you promised checks. Why didn't you send out the checks? Now, there are two scenarios that are before us. First scenario, they succeed in hindering him from carrying out the tariff strategy to its fullest conclusion, with all these federal judges stopping him from doing what he's meant to be doing. The second thing would be Congress deciding that sending out checks is suddenly the Republican Party buying votes. Okay, that could come up. So let's watch. Time is our friend. We're all going to be here analyzing the situation and coming up with our own conclusions from every argument that we see evolving. All right, let's see. Yeah, Canary Cane. Yeah, toothpicks. Yes, we import toothpicks. Nigeria doesn't produce cars. We have a steel mill that hasn't worked in almost 30 years. It's been run down. It doesn't produce steel. Everything is in place, but it doesn't produce anything. All the manufacturing has been destroyed. Power supply, because you need power in order to run these factories. Power supply is dead in the water. It can barely carry the civilian usage for daily life. So there are load shedding. There are parts of the country that haven't seen electricity in weeks or months. It is horrible. So with that kind of power production, how will manufacturing take place? Because manufacturing requires power. A lot of companies run on generators. Some of them have 4 huge generators in order to run 24 hours a day. All right. When I worked from home in Nigeria, I had 3 generators, a larger generator, a medium generator, and a small generator. I had 3 personally, privately. So the story of what we've seen in Nigeria is something that you can learn from. If you don't stop your country from heading in that direction, you're going to get to that point. Already, there have been calls to increase the power output of the United States. Why aren't you producing power using nuclear energy? Why aren't you building nuclear plants? Why aren't you building more power plants? Okay, there's just this thing where the American economy has been hobbled by people who feel like, oh, the climate is going to be destroyed if we produce another ounce of energy. Meanwhile, China is building new power plants every other year. So it's something to understand. All right. Nigerian steel. Okay, sorry, I'm jumping the gun. So Lauren says, even if Trump wanted to, he can't unilaterally decide to send out checks. It takes approval from both the House and Senate. Republican budget hawks aren't going to send out more inflation handouts. Well, you're right. Now, it's a dividend. It's not cash. Okay. So let's listen to what he says. Okay, he says dividend checks. These are dividends. It is like owning a share in a company. It's not cash. You can decide to sell it for cash. You could decide to sell it for cash, but it's essentially like owning shares in a company, or like bonds, like when a country issues bonds. I assume that's the strategy. Now, I haven't explored the idea behind this entire thing. I haven't, but it would be interesting to see the thought that goes into the design of these dividend checks, to see how they will work out. It's almost like, now here's my thoughts, okay, then, and let me know what you think. It's almost like buying Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $100, when you could buy one Bitcoin for $100. Okay, it's almost like that. And eventually, as the valuation of that dividend check improves, this $2,000 dividend check in 5 years could become $10,000. Who knows? Like, I'm just spitballing here. Okay, so it's not like they're handing out cash. Inflation happens when you hand out cash. All right, so this isn't a cash handout. It's not printing money. It is a dividend check. All right. I hope we understand that. Now, it'd be great to have some pushback. If there's something that you're hearing that's like, okay, this doesn't add up, do some research, send us some links, and let's take a look at what you're saying. But I like to go by what people say and the history of what they've always said. And President Trump hasn't changed his tune on the fact that these aren't cash handouts. These are dividend checks. He's been consistent in that regard. All right. I wish we could still have the live chat pop up on the screen like we did last week, but we're going to figure that out. Okay, Canary King says, I don't need the check and I support him sending it to people that need it. Yeah. There are people like it'd be great that for once, people who need the check get the check, and it helps them out. Sometime, they could convert the check to money in a few years, and it's a lot of money. They could keep the check and they could use it to pay for college or something for their kids. I mean, there's a lot that could go into this, but knowing how this might pan out, it's going to become a very, very contentious conversation over time. Never heard of Nigerian steel. It's called the Ajaokuta Steel Complex. It's called the Ajaokuta. Okay, I'm going to type it and you're going to see. It's a sad story. It's a sad story because the steel company was set up. Is there? Okay, so Wikipedia. The Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited, popularly known as Ajaokuta Steel Mill, is a steel mill in Nigeria located in Kogi State, built on a 24,000 hectares site starting in 1979. It's the largest steel mill in Nigeria, and the coke oven and byproduct plant are larger than all the refineries in Nigeria combined. However, the project was mismanaged and remains incomplete 40 years later. So, it's stuff like this that happens routinely in third world countries. Okay, so I keep telling you guys, I could tell you stories for days. and it's just frustrating. And when I was in middle school, they kept telling us by the year 2000 things are going to change, and I bought that lie hook, line, and sinker. The government lied to us. We bought it, and many of us spent our most productive lives waiting for a lie that would never come, or for something that will never come. Generator fueled by natural gas? No, the generators are fueled by diesel. That's what these companies run on. All right, US power generation isn't an issue. It's the worn out grid. Well, I think it's both production and distribution. All right, so we've talked about President Trump's announcement. We've talked about it. If you're just joining the chat, we've talked about President Trump's announcement that he's going to hand out, or that there will be a dividend, a $2,000 dividend a person, not including high-income people. All right, that will be made available or paid to everyone who qualifies. Okay, we've had that conversation. If you have thoughts on this announcement, go ahead and put your thoughts in the chat. We will respond to it. Now, we have a culture of looking at the comment section. All right. The comment section is fun to watch because there are people who watch videos, who watch my videos and they respond. Some of the comments are very encouraging, some of them not so much. So I usually promise that I will talk to anyone who chats with me during the live chat. And I will also acknowledge people who send me comments whenever we do a video. So this video titled Stunning Discovery, USDA Finds Widespread SNAP Fraud Under Biden, got this feedback. Bob L310 says, prosecute the fraudsters. So essentially, in this video, it was discovered that there were thousands and thousands of people who were misusing the SNAP benefits. Okay. Now, I'm going to encourage you, please keep sending your messages in the chat. My switching over to the comment section doesn't mean that I'm going to be ignoring the chat. So keep your comments coming in the chat. And forgive me, last week we were able to put up your chats on the screen so everyone could read it. In fact, let me switch out to the chat feature that has better contrast. It's easier to read. This is easier to read, so maybe we will do that. All right, so you can see that your chat is actually making it through. I'm going to read the chat, but right now we're responding to the comment section. Okay, so yes, do you agree that the fraudsters, people who misused or abused the SNAP benefits, should be prosecuted? This is coming from a commenter on that video. Okay, so let me know in the chat. Now, personally, I think they should be prosecuted because people will repeat bad practices if they are not punished. That's the way of the world. If people don't get punished or prosecuted, they're going to keep doing it. And other people who aren't doing that crime will say, hey, it seems like the government doesn't mind. And then they go ahead and do the same thing. Look, when I was growing up, cheating during your exams was a bad thing. It was frowned upon. You were meant to suffer the consequences if you cheated. But by the time I was in middle school, it was slowly becoming a culture. By the time I graduated high school, it was ingrained as culture. It was expected that you would cheat during your exams. And by the time I was in college, it was a pastime. People would make jokes about writing small notes that they could cheat off of in the exams. They used to call them microchips. That's what they called them in my college. So it became a lifestyle by the time I was in college. Today, if you don't cheat or steal, okay, let's stay with cheating and exam malpractice. Today, if you don't cheat during your exams, you're seen as a rare species, a rare breed. It all starts with someone not paying for their crimes and other people seeing that it's okay. In fact, some parents would pay for their kids to have someone write the exam on behalf of their kids. These are kids who are currently in one position of power or the other. Their parents paid someone to write their exams for them. So they're basically using certificates that they did not earn. So yeah, I'm all for prosecuting the fraudsters. Sel Shackfield, responding to this video, the same video, said, all federal spending should be logged on blockchain technology. I agree with that. But all technology is fallible. If it's created by people, there's always a backdoor. Blockchain has been sold for years as this magical unbreakable means of keeping checks and balances in place without outside interference. I find that hard to believe. My background is in software design. Everything has a backdoor. Everything, even blockchain. So the marketing pitch might be very different from the actual technology. People say that Bitcoin is untraceable. Meanwhile, I know that law enforcement now is able to trace transactions. Maybe they do it on the end of the exchange. They go to the exchange and they check the logs at the exchange. But blockchain, or let me say Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is no longer secure. Okay, it's no longer opaque to third parties trying to see who paid for what. All right, that ship has sailed. So them trying to sell us blockchain as this very secure niche thing that governments can use, I don't think so. What do you think? All right, I'm going to go into the chat. So Lauren has been patient. I'm going to read Lauren's post in the chat. Now, if you're watching, what we're doing is we're having a conversation. The key topic has been discussed, but we're having a conversation around it in the chat. Feel free to let your thoughts or your voice be heard in the chat. I will read your chat out loud and I will respond to you. All right, so that's what we're hanging out. This is a Choose Your Adventure segment. Now, for the second half of the show, we're going to be diving in and out of the chat. And if there's something you want me to consider or look at, or a video you want me to play, you can suggest that in the chat and I will play the video and we can talk about it. Okay. So, and that segment starts now. So go ahead and send your thoughts and then we can dive in and then have a conversation around it. So Lauren says, Trump knows the economy is a mess and his supporters can't do basic math. So they believe he can send $2,000 checks from tariff revenues. This would cost $500 billion. The tariff revenue equals to... Lauren, I'm wondering if you heard anything else that I said. Okay, because I've responded repeatedly. I've repeated that the math has to consider the fact that there are people who are high earners. They will not be getting the checks. There are minors. They will not be getting the checks. Minors may not be getting the checks. That number would be severely reduced. Secondly, we're also looking at the fact that there's more money from tariffs that is expected. And I talked about the fact that other countries who are meant to come to the negotiating table, but are waiting for all of these federal cases that have been bumped up to the Supreme Court to be decided. And so in the end, what we're seeing is a lot of delayed action on tariff payments from other countries. So we need to have that in mind. All right. I've said that before. Give me a second. Right, that was my oldest trying to get me to unlock his screen time. I told him to go talk to his mom. Of course, his mom told him to go read a book, and he's trying to get me to go behind my wife's back and get me in trouble. Yeah, we all played that game before. I'm not falling for it. All right, so we've already explained that. And Lauren... Trump, see, you consider that a lot of people who support Trump's policies can't do basic math. And you need to ask the questions. All right. These are the problems. You pointed out the problems. We've discussed those problems. I've addressed them and I've told you, here's what I see. And I've also said, time is our friend. We're going to be here and we're going to see whether those promises come through. And these are dividend checks. These are dividend checks. The way dividends work, you're not handing out cash. You're not handing out cash. They could be exchanged for cash. Okay, they could, I think, but it has to go through a broker. It's not something you can just trade directly with somebody on a street corner. If you've dealt with shares and bonds and so on, you know that you don't simply, like crypto. Crypto has to go through an exchange. So it's not, when these conversations happen and then it's oversimplified to be that you are simply handing out cash to everyone. No, it's not cash. It's a dividend check. And then you flip it and say, well, people are going to simply exchange those checks for cash. Yes, but there is a brokerage it has to go through a broker. So these are things that need to be discussed openly and honestly. But in my opinion, it's always going to be about holding the Trump administration accountable, for their promises. And then the question is, okay, so what will Congress do when it's time to actually come through on those promises? I've given my prediction. Let me know yours. All right. So we've reacted to this comment about all federal spending being logged on the blockchain. I don't think blockchain is as secure as it's advertised. All right, I'm going to read this one by Bob in the West 8559. He says he's responding to the same video. All right, this video, stunning discovery: USDA finds widespread snap fraud under Biden. And oops, sorry about that. I just hit the back button. Sorry. Let me go back to that. Okay, there it is. Sorry. All right, so he says they should just set a date, maybe 6 months out, for everyone who is receiving benefits to reconfirm their eligibility. Anyone not reconfirmed by that date gets cut off. End of story. Also, there has to be interstate data sharing. If DMV can do it, so can these programs, to prevent multi-state recipients. But they depend on the entire thing being opaque. These, the distribution of subsidies and benefits and SNAP and welfare and everything, all sits under the welfare system. And like we remember, Elon Musk revealed that people were still receiving Social Security who had been dead for years. This is a massive grift that has been going on for decades. None of these states are going to agree to have all that data be transparent. If you watch this video, you will find that the federal government was sued for daring to ask for the role of people who were receiving these benefits, because an audit needed to happen. So, how many of us private citizens would be able to sue the federal government? Am I back? Yeah, I'm back. Thanks, American, for letting me know. I don't know how long I was speaking and and the mic was. All right, so this is why those of you who watch the content regularly should consider sending a few shekels. I either need to switch out my computer with to something that runs on Windows, because it seems like the software that I'm using is reacting to the fact that I'm running on a Mac. But Windows also has its issues where at least I use Windows for a long time, and sometimes you're working on something and then Windows suddenly tells you have Windows is about to shut down for an update in the middle of something very important. So I'm conflicted. We'll see about that. So I'll go back to the statement on Musk. Okay, I don't know when my mic got turned off, so I'm just going to start with your comment. Musk isn't credible. Remember, he was an illegal alien. If an actual American had something meaningful to say, perhaps it would be more interesting. Elon Musk was presenting data he had found, or at least his team had found. Whether the data was accurate, some of that data is still being cited today. All right. Now, guys, time is our friend. I would say, and I've said before, we shouldn't allow ourselves get hypnotized by either the right or the left. We should always keep our eyes wide open, keep our eyes on the ball. If something shifts, if someone changes their story, we should call it out. If there's something that has been promised, and if you followed my content, like, I try very hard not to be an apologist for President Trump. I could say his policies work. I could point out things that I agree with, but I try very hard not to be so much of an apologist of his policies that it becomes me just defending every single thing he does. I try very hard not to be that guy. And it is really hard. I wouldn't say it's easy. Me saying I try to do that doesn't mean I succeed every single time. But what I would say is this: time is our friend. If something happens and we're trying to say this is happening and the person doing it is a problem, we can feel that way. We can hint at it or say it, but we need to come back in a few years to say, is this thing this person did or said still valid? All right. I haven't always been an Elon Musk fan. I haven't. One of my cousins is, but I haven't always been an Elon Musk fan. I'm grateful that he purchased X, or Twitter at the time. I'm grateful he did, because at the time I was living in Nigeria and I could feel the chokehold of censorship. I could feel it. It was in the, for me, it was in the air. We just came out of the lockdowns, and it felt like you were restrained from doing anything or saying anything that you were really thinking. And when he bought Twitter, it was a breath of fresh air for many people. At the time, I wasn't really big on creating content and posting my thoughts the way I do today. But I could feel the relief in the ether when he purchased Twitter. So there's that to be considered. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't know that I had been offline for so long. I didn't. I was paying attention to the chat and to the comment section, and I didn't know that the meter had frozen. Okay, so eventually we're going to replace this setup or figure out why my mic keeps freezing. It happens occasionally, and it's very frustrating when it does. Okay, we're going to start wrapping up. All right. So this account looks like a bot. All right. I posted this video, all right, why New Yorkers must learn the hard way about socialism. And this person said, dumb Trump propagandist. And it's like, okay, I don't understand why you're saying that. Are you saying it because the views expressed on the video were favorable to Trump or favorable to anyone aligned to him, or views that do not align with the Democrat narrative? All right, so this does not impress me. Now I read both the good comments and the negative comments because I want to be transparent. Okay, so I don't know what this person said. So Janine says, thank you for exposing all the corruption. These illegals don't have any rights to get any American benefits. None. Okay, so I'm sure it's the video on the USDA fraud. Okay. All right, so I'm going to focus on the live chat for the last leg of this live stream. There are many comments, but I'm going to just focus on the live chat because I came out to hang out with you guys. So if you have more thoughts on the comments that I just read, or more thoughts on the story around President Trump issuing or promising these dividends, these tariff dividends, let me know in the chat. Now, I have explained my thoughts on the issue. I believe that as thinking people who actually sit and have rational thought, we should have conversations that are consistent, and figure out where there are inconsistencies, point them out, and then move on. Let's not engage in personal attacks. Let's see. Okay. The sound bar froze again. I'm like, okay, what's happening here? So I had to make sure that everything was working. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying really hard. We're running this entire operation on duct tape and spit, but we will figure things out as we go along. So let me know in the chat what you think about everything we've covered so far. I do want to just close out with a conversation with you and then see what you think. You've already given me more than enough, to talk about, and the conversations around concerns about the dividend checks and Elon Musk and so on, and some of the things that I've had to explain. It's been great. But if you do want to talk about something that's adjacent to this, let me know in the chat as well. Sorry, but I don't trust Musk and his South African agenda. Okay, so what is his South African agenda? I know that there was the move towards bringing in white South African farmers into the United States and giving them refugee status because they've been hunted down in their own country. Many of them have been murdered because the government has been running cover for black gangs who go into these farms at night to murder the white farmers and their families. Sometimes they just spend all night torturing them. Sometimes they are murdered, but the cases of murder have been going back years. And it's not just Elon Musk who has been talking about it. There are several creators who have created documentaries on this one issue. And nothing is being done to protect the white farmers. And when I say nothing substantial. The incidents are still happening. The culprits haven't been caught to my knowledge. If they have, let me know in the comment section. But these are the things that keep happening. And the question is, does this make sense? Is this right? So you can let me know in the chat what you mean by his South African agenda, because even the government in South Africa haven't allowed him to bring in his companies. Meanwhile, he is originally from South Africa. So how does that work? And South Africa is still a majority black nation. Apartheid has been abolished. Now, the black leadership is carrying out apartheid in its own version of apartheid on the white population, who are the minorities. So the question is, I need to know what you mean by the South African agenda that is being pushed by Elon. If anyone is originally from another country, and again, I've said it again and again, that's why I don't think anyone who is an immigrant let me say this properly so it's not misunderstood. I don't believe a first or second generation immigrant should run for office. Third generation, fantastic. They've assimilated, they've grown, they're good. I believe that anyone who is being sworn into office has to be sworn in with their hand on the Bible. No other holy writing, the Bible. What I believe doesn't count, guys. It doesn't count. I am not an American citizen. It doesn't count. But that's what I believe. Because the United States has to maintain its heritage. It has to be. Canary King says, Musk as an immigrant had no business wandering around the White House. He wasn't elected into office. He was appointed to run a department. All right. So I don't think it's the same thing as running for office and being elected into Congress. If we're going to say that Musk as an immigrant had no business wandering around the White House, so why? If he had a job to do in the White House, fine. If he didn't have a job to do in the White House and all he did was loaf around and cause problems, then we have a problem there. Musk headed an unelected Doge that interfered with the American government. Doge was an existing office in the government, but it wasn't called Doge. All right. It was simply rechristened Doge, from my understanding. It was rechristened Doge because Elon had been talking about it for months, at the point where President Trump began to discuss including it as one of the things that he was going to implement, because it sounded like a good idea, dealing with waste, fraud, and abuse, interfering with the with the American government. A lot of voters wanted Doge to happen. So it wasn't just an issue of him doing it. It was a mandate by the voters. Of course, we know that Doge has essentially been neutered now. It's not as strong as it was earlier in the Trump administration. So again, time is our friend. It started out one way. Today you barely hear about it. All right, since the falling out between President Trump and Elon, it's barely been mentioned. Are they still functional? I'm not sure. I hear that there's a Doge office still in place, but the Democrats aren't foaming at the mouth anymore that Doge is carrying out audits in different departments anymore. And discovering social security fraud, discovering that the USAID was essentially funneling billions of dollars, which could possibly have been misappropriated, should have been a good thing. If the issue was that he was doing something he wasn't meant to be doing, the question is, so why didn't someone else do what he wasn't meant to be doing? If someone else caught the idea, if an American citizen caught the idea, if an American citizen had the capacity to do it, how come they didn't do it? I mean, these are just real questions I'm asking. Musk embarrassed Trump by lying to him about South Africa. Trump then sounded like an idiot in front of the South African delegation. No, there are documentaries. There are documentaries, Canary King. There are documentaries. So if you want to, I mean, you can go on X. Those documentaries are there for free. They've been censored on other platforms, but they are on X. They're on X. There's Katie, gosh, I've forgotten her name now. There's a British comedian who's also a content creator who went to South Africa, lived for a few days with a farmer, and she experienced firsthand these attacks. She experienced it firsthand. So it's not like it's all made up. All right. Now, if Elon gives, so it's like you and I now, Canary King. Oh, Intergalactic Wrangler, welcome back. Great to see you. All right, so it's like you and I having this conversation here. As much as I try to give you information that is accurate, and do you know what? You might be right that Elon Musk may have passed on inaccurate information, which would be an indictment on him, because whenever you're in the presence of a powerful person like the US president, you could say something that could trigger an international incident. You need to have your facts straight. If Elon offered inaccurate facts to the American president, okay, that's on him. And that means that anything he says should be taken with a grain of salt. So the first thing is, what did he tell the president that was inaccurate? Now, is it something that isn't true, that isn't happening at all? Right now, I don't know what you're talking about. And so I would love for you to let me know what Elon said that was him misinforming the American president. Musk was not elected but tried to remake the American government. Well, the president gave him an assignment, and the assignment was look for the waste, fraud, and abuse and give it to us, and then we'll know what to do with the information. That was the assignment. Trump, being the leader of several companies, is used to calling the shots. And if he overstepped his role in the cabinet, it was no surprise that he got shut down and eventually he had to leave Trump's cabinet. It was no surprise. Now, does that make him a bad person? You tell me. Does it make him a bad person? Again, I'm not saying that these guys are angels, that they have wings sprouting from their backs. No, those are shoulder blades. They are not wings. They have issues like everyone else. And some of them, because their bank accounts have so many zeros behind them, the issues equally have so many zeros behind them because they have huge egos and huge flaws. They are public figures and the whole world sees them and sees their flaws. If you told me, or if I told something that wasn't entirely true on this small, tiny live stream, it wouldn't move the needle. But if I had 1 million people watching me right now and I said something that wasn't true, then it moves the needle. I am essentially sowing misinformation to millions of people, so I should be more responsible with how I speak and what I say. So sometimes we see these things happening and then we're like, oh, this person is so bad because they did this and so on. I mean, we should give people some grace. But again, if we have a genuine problem with someone or with something they did, we need to be able to call it out properly. Canary King says, even acting like he was better than Trump. How was he acting like he was better than Trump? Was it after the fallout or the falling out? People who fight always act like they're better than the person they're fighting with. I mean, it's a human thing. Doge was an epic failure. Well, at least the few wins that we saw were good. Them exposing USAID and some of the fraud on social security, that was also a big win. Musk had no business being close to the U.S. government. Well, you see, that's the problem with politics. Okay, politics needs funding, and if you don't have the billions or the hundreds of millions to donate to a candidate like President Trump, and someone else does, that person is essentially, because of his contribution, will be given access that you won't be given access. It is the way the world works. I've seen people stand up to say, we need to get money out of politics. Well, good luck. Why don't we just go back to listening to presidential debates over the radio? Why don't we go back to that? Because if it takes a lot of money to campaign the way we campaign in modern times, why don't we just go back to just sending out flyers and pamphlets and then the American people decide? That might be a good way to reduce the influence of money, because it takes hundreds of millions, in some cases over $1 billion, to run these campaigns. Because you need to keep hypnotizing. Let's call it what it is. It is hypnosis. Campaigning and marketing is hypnosis. You continue to put someone's image in front of the eyes of the people. And eventually, someone decides, oh, I've seen this person 2,000 times. And in their head, that's the person I'm going to vote for. They've seen them appearing on podcasts, on TV interviews. Paying the people that book all of these appearances is not cheap. Paying people who are the strategists for the campaigns is not cheap. Paying for the ad slots, paying for the campaign materials, paying for the event venues, and all of that is not cheap. It is all of that created the possibility that an Elon Musk could pay or contribute massively through a PAC to Donald Trump's campaign. And then Donald Trump wins. Of course, he's going to, have some access. And he had some ideas. And to be honest, they both got close. I mean, Trump was excited that Elon, contributed, and it moved the needle. To be honest, it moved the needle. People were like, Elon endorsed Trump. Okay. I'm going to consider him. And there are people who will do anything that Elon tells them to do. All right. I know that a lot of conservatives would say, oh, we think for ourselves, but that's not true. You know it, I know it. That's not true. A lot of conservatives would look up to someone and they say, if this person says it's okay, then I guess it is. Because a lot of conservatives do have that same thing that happens to everyone. If there's someone you respect and love and they tell you do this, you go ahead and do them. You're influenced by the people you respect and love. Right, Musk should go sit his ass down somewhere. No, Canary King just doesn't like Elon Musk. Okay, Intergalactic Wrangler says, he was a temporary employee, but Doge is still actively working. I support Doge and shrinking the government. Yeah, well, that's my position. Canary King doesn't think that Doge worked out very well. But time is our friend. All right, time is our friend. In a few years, maybe in a few months, we will be on a live stream and we'll have a report card. We're like, okay, let's see if Doge was as great as it was advertised or as we thought, or was it as bad as some of us thought? And then we sit down and talk about it. Many of us, okay, my audience and I, we were aged between 35 and 60. And many of us have been through life for years. We've seen politicians lie and deceive and promise, and they don't come through on their promises. Time is our friend. We're going to sit down here and we're going to learn yet again. If we were all taken for a ride at any point, I'm not sure we're entirely being taken for a ride. I'm sure that there are a bunch of things that are good for the American people. But there will also be things that maybe we're unaware of or we don't know are happening that aren't so much for the benefit of the American people. They might be for personal or private interests. All right. Trump is not an angel. His cabinet members aren't angels. We're going to have a scandal or two connected to one member or two of Trump's cabinet. We should prepare for it. We've seen the Epstein situation. It's not going away. It's going to continue to float around. The smell is going to continue to waft through the administration for the rest of his presidency. So it's a bad thing, but it's just part of politics. All right. Thank you, Intergalactic Wrangler, for that chat. Canary King says, I was so happy the news cycle moved on quickly. Just because America let these guys accumulate a lot of wealth doesn't mean they have the right to interfere with our government. These South Africans and others are nuts. Well, that's why the levers of government have to be protected. First, you have to make sure that your elections are secure. Second, you need to make sure that the deep state is dealt with under this administration. Else, it's back to status quo after Trump leaves. Because you're seeing what happened with Elon, coming into the government and doing stuff. And President Trump was very open about it. He was open about it even on the campaign trail. Canary King, you're the one talking about Musk. Don't put it on me. You're talking about Musk. I'm reading. Look, in the intro to the live stream. All right. This is news, reactions, and your views. Okay. We've done the news, we've reacted, and now we're dealing with your views. As long as you keep talking about Elon and telling us how much you think about him, we're going to talk about your views. Okay. That's what this live streams are really all about. Okay. So let's talk about the weather. Let's talk about the weather. Okay. All right, guys. So Canary King, if because I like. I'm going to read through all of your messages because you put them out on the chat, Canary King. You flooded my chat with stuff about Elon. You're going to sit there and you're going to take it. All right? You're going to sit there and you're going to take it. Take it like a man. Assume the position. Okay. Musk looked like he was high the whole time. All right, there it is. All right, so this is another opportunity for me to advertise the fact that you can support the channel by becoming a member. You can donate so that I can change this computer or buy a soundboard that keeps my audio from cutting out. But I appreciate you hanging out and watching and chatting. Thank you, Intergalactic Wrangler, for telling me that the audio was muted. Okay, but that just reminded me that I needed to remind you that you could become a member of the channel. It helps us keep the lights on, literally, and it also helps us be able to eventually work on the audio, buy a soundboard, buy a new computer, whatever we need to make sure this happens. And it also helps to pay the bills. Currently, I am a full-time YouTuber currently. So this is what I do. It supports, it helps out, it keeps me able to keep doing this and to do it with joy. All right, so I'm not worried that in the middle of the live stream, the electric company will cut my light off. So yeah, so that's my spiel. All right, guys, this is the segment where you tell me your thoughts, okay? And we've been talking about the M word. I said I'm not going to talk about him, so we're not going to talk about him. We've been talking about the M word, courtesy of Canary King. All right, so yeah, so thank you for pulling us in that direction. It's great that we're able to kind of unpack that. Now, in this live stream, we try to be as honest as we can with each other. Canary King knows that I'm not a shill. He knows that I'm not a yes man or I'm not here to rage bait. So he pushes back and I push back also in my own very calm way. If you like the calm demeanor of this, the calm tone of this live stream and of the videos on this channel, please consider subscribing, liking the videos or the live streams and sharing. We live stream every day of the week at noon Eastern, 12 p.m. Eastern. Occasionally during the weekend, I live stream in the afternoons, okay, at either 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern. And I like to hang out with my audience. The live streams are mostly designed to be an interactive conversation between me and my audience. I present an opening news story, which I already have done. I've talked about the president's promise to offer a $2,000 dividend to Americans. And of course, the qualifier is that they should not be high earners. I am assuming that they will also say that they should be, they would not be paying this to minors. There's been pushback to say that the numbers don't add up. And I've had a conversation with the chats to say there's a reason why those numbers may not add up. and I've had that conversation. So if you're just joining, and it's like you came because of the title, but it seems like we're just having a conversation in the chat, is because we already had that conversation at the front end. We're now at the back end where we're hanging out, and actually it's a fallout of those conversations. So please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy this kind of environment. We're not here to be partisan, all right? And you might listen to me and say, well, you sound partisan because you support President Trump's policies. No. Being partisan is supporting a candidate at all times and running cover for them when they genuinely mess up and are destroying the country. If the Trump administration engages in any practice that will be destructive to the American people, I will call it out. All right. What we saw under the Biden administration was partisanship. Everyone knew that he was in mental decline. They knew he wasn't well. But do you know what? The people on the conservative side called it out and said, what's going on here? The people on the liberal side, or the leftists, said, what are you talking about? He's sharp as a tack. That is being partisan. When you would promote a lie in order to protect the person that you support, that's being partisan. So we're non-partisan. We try to have decent conversations. We try to have honest conversations. I don't like it when I'm wrong, but on occasion, Canary King proves me wrong on certain things. And then I have to step out to say, okay, yes, I was wrong. All right. No one likes being wrong, but it's really bad when you know you're wrong and then you double down. So this channel is not one of those channels. So we try to be as honest and as transparent as we possibly can be. I'm going to play a video. I feel like it wouldn't be a good video if I didn't get your blood pumping. All right. So let me see. Which one should I play? I have a bunch of videos. Like, my feed has been infiltrated. All right. So I'm going to play this one. All right. We'll play this one. And let me know what you think in the chat.
Who do you guys
Okay.
Who do you guys think is a bigger threat, Trump girl or Mom Donnie?
Probably Trump girl.
Yeah, why?
Because she stands for all that Trump stuff.
What's all that?
All that yucky, scary, yucky, racist Trump stuff.
Okay, and what do you like about this dude?
You know, he stands for the opposite, at least based on what I've heard.
He definitely does. One stands for capitalism, free markets, less government, and the other one stands for socialism, more government.
Down, yeah, for sure.
So you like socialism?
Yeah.
All right. Where has socialism worked?
You know, I just put together what's going on.
What's going on?
No, I got it.
We're making a video. Where has socialism worked well?
Honestly, I don't know enough to be able to answer that question, but
What about Venezuela? How are they doing?
I can't say that I've read much about Venezuela recently. Yeah.
Cuba?
Have you read much about anything recently? Now, earlier in this video, I did say that the problem of low information voters happens on both sides, both for Republicans and for Democrats. But it's like an epidemic on the Democrat side, because it's the vote blue no matter who situation.
Who do you think is more for gay people? His supporters or Trump supporters?
Definitely the Mondani supporters.
Yeah? He came out in support of LGBT people, but his supporters tried to cancel him for that. Did you know that?
Certainly not me, and I'm one of him. I'm all for Mamdani.
What's your favorite policy of his?
Okay, so Mamdani came out in support of LGBTQ people, and his supporters tried to cancel him because his core supporters are Muslims.
You know, I don't know enough.
You're a supporter and you don't know his policies?
I'm like just a sort of general go-getter.
What if he just supported getting rid of all gay people and you didn't know that?
Well, that'd be crazy, but I would probably hear about that one. But I appreciate you guys.
Would you support him?
You haven't heard about any of his policies, how would you probably hear about the fact that he's against gay people? All right. The degree of cope and like they just convince themselves that they're right. And anything that points to the fact that they are supporting the wrong person it's like they experience a meltdown. Their brains literally just melt into mush, and they're like, okay, I know what's going on here. I don't know I don't know too much about that. You need to know about the policies. You need to know about the policies. When the Republican primaries were taking place, I'll be honest with you, I was hoping that there'll be someone who would give Trump a run for his money. I'll be honest. Because I felt that Trump carried too much baggage. He had too much baggage with him. So I was like, we don't need this going into the next 4 years or 8 years. We need something fresh that can really reset the table. But none of the candidates could move the needle. They couldn't. It was as if there needed to be an emotional element to the voter base for them to get out there to vote. And the lawfare against President Trump, the attempted assassination at Butler, Pennsylvania, and then, of course, the other attempt galvanized the base. Look at the other elections that have recently happened. The Republicans lost the elections in New Jersey. They lost those elections. Like, it's crazy. So I think that on the right, we do need more education, and I hope that my YouTube channel can provide some of that information. I may not be educational, but at least the information that people need to watch to know what's going on out there. Intergalactic Wrangler says, I have only voted once in my life, and it was for Trump. He doesn't have a problem with gay people. He has a problem with wokeism. And we have to balance this budget or the country will fall. I agree. Many times in order to carry out an agenda that works for everyone, you might have to make allies with people that you don't entirely agree with. All right, so I'm going to play this one, all right? This account, America, says, I give you the voice of the Democrat Party. He has had multiple people killed multiple times. That's what a Democrat is saying, talking about Trump. So let's watch and just listen to her. I don't want to do all the reading. So let's listen.
He has had multiple people be killed because of police brutality.
He has had people be killed.
Ma'am, I live in a town where there was riots.
Very good. I'm glad that that's where you come from. However, who has he had killed?
He has caused his police to do it. He has militia-ized this country.
What?
He has militia-ized this country.
I can't speak English because I suck at it, but ma'am.
I just want to know how Donald Trump is racist.
Because he has had his militia, our military, be used to protect buildings against people who have been killed multiple times.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What did she just say? What did she just say? I'm trying to make sense of what she said, and I'm trying to think of how that could remotely be believable. But you know what? When these young people spend all their time on TikTok, and they have these TikTok influencers stringing lies together to make President Trump out to be an evil villain, racist, with no evidence, none whatsoever. They they step out and then they play videos like this. I have a video that might. Oh, sorry. I'm going to be looking for. Let me see if I can find that video. Where is it? I thought I bookmarked it. Oh goodness. Did I? Okay, I didn't bookmark it. I thought I did. I think I did, but X has. So there's a video I thought I bookmarked of CNN clipping the very fine people hoax. You know, the very fine people hoax. All right. And it shows the way it was clipped. And there are many people who still believe the very fine people hoax. All right, I can't find it, so we'll just move on. There are many people who still believe the very fine people hoax. They believe that President Trump actually said that there were very fine people among the neo-Nazis. And it's all because of framing. CNN framed it that way. The Democrat Party has continued to push that story. I had a friend who lives in the UK who got into he got into an argument. I was having a conversation. He got into an argument with me over why I am favorable to Trump's policies. He said he was disappointed in me, you know. And then he says, "What about the very fine people hoax?" And I couldn't believe my ears. That people still believed that hoax today. That's where she gets her news from, those platforms. Gets it from TikTok, gets it from CNN, MSNBC. And to my knowledge, none of them have retracted that story till date. If they have, please send me the clip. I haven't seen them retract the story till today. All right, I'm going to play one more. So what do you think of her take? Canary King says, let's see, Trump is the only person that understood the balance of trade issues as the core reason for the national debt because he's a businessman. He's a businessman and he understands how money works. For career politicians, if the country has an economic problem, tax people more. That's how most politicians work. And then they come out and claim that they're trying to give the regular guy a better life. Now, this will be the last video we react to, okay? So, let's listen to this.
That's why I get really angry when I hear Ilhan Omar. You come over here and then you say that this country is dirty and a dictatorship. How dare you do that? You had nothing to do with the creation of this country. You came over here because this country offers you more security, more prosperity than any other country in the world. And I get so tired. I mean, we're always told, properly so, that a naturalized immigrant has the same claim on America as a nativist born many generations. Yes, that's true. But we ask in exchange a
naturalized immigrant has the same claim. All right. I would say I don't agree. If a naturalized immigrant gave birth to a child, that child has the same claim. I know it's not a popular opinion. It's not. And other immigrants out there will not like that I said it. They won't. Some of my audience may not like that I said this. But for someone to say that they have a claim on the United States, they either have to be born in the United States. And I would say, now, just to be polite, they should be born in the United States. And to have an even bigger claim, and to have an even bigger claim, their family has to have lived in the United States for several generations. Okay, that would be my opinion. It's not popular. It's not a popular opinion, but that's what I think. Okay, let me know what you think in the chat.
A simple requisite. If you come over here and you come across the border, do it legally, but more importantly, have some sense of gratitude that you made that decision. We didn't. You said, I want to come into your place because I don't like my place. Whatever don't like means. I'm in danger. I'm poor, whatever. When I come over to your place, I made a decision that it had attractions that I didn't have. Therefore, I will not trash your place. And I will respect the people who made that an enviable place for me to come to.
I live in Canada. I may not like all of the policy positions that I hear about on the news. That's one reason why I don't even bother covering anything Canadian. Canada doesn't have a First Amendment, so I'm not going to play that game. I am an immigrant. What I tell other immigrants who live in Europe and in the United States not to do is the same thing I don't do here in Canada. What is that? I don't trash the country that welcomed me. If I don't like something, I suck it up or I buy a ticket and go back to where I came from. That's my policy. Anyone who's trashing the United States after being welcomed to the United States, trashing the UK, England, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Sweden, Germany, wanting to change those countries. I'm gonna play. I get upset when I see this. I get genuinely upset. Okay, so I'm gonna play one. Should I? Okay, I'm gonna promise you tomorrow we're gonna look at if you can make it. I'm gonna play. We're gonna talk about this. Tomorrow we're gonna talk about this. Okay, tomorrow. I have videos for days to talk about this issue. I am offended. I experience second-hand offense when I watch Ilhan Omar trash the United States of America. I'm not a citizen. I get second-hand offense when I look at Europe and what has happened to those beautiful cities because they decided to be foolish and engage in mass immigration. Saying I'm offended is mild. I am enraged. And those are not my countries. Because when you come to a country has been kind to you, allowed you to come in there. Don't try to change the country into the place you came from. Canary Kane says, I see your point, though I need to reflect on it for a while. Yeah, I mean, we all need to reflect because so this thing I just said, if I stand in the middle of a group of immigrants and say this, I might get attacked. Because as far as they're concerned, the whole point of migrating is to get the advantages of being a naturalized citizen. I don't see it the same way because I am thinking generationally. I'm thinking generationally because if someone who is naturalized is allowed to say they have a claim to the same rights as someone else who is born, whose great-grandparents fought in the Civil War, and their families have bled for the country, and you just showed up and hung around for a few years. All you did was maybe you did a minimum wage job for 20 years and finally you're naturalized and hey, you're good. Look, guys, let's just say the truth. Okay. Let's just say the truth. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Intergalactic Wrangler says, I agree with you. Maybe at least 2 generations. Can't have people running across the border and having babies. Yeah, 2 generations. 2 generations. I agree. Intergalactic Wrangler, in case you don't know this, I have an anchor baby. My daughter was born in the US in 2016. And it wasn't for the sake of us eventually moving to the States. It was just for her because we lived in a third world country and we just wanted to give our children every advantage possible. So that was why. I wasn't planning to leave my country. My wife wasn't thinking of leaving the country unless she was and she didn't tell me, but it was all about the kids. Right? My first child was born in Nigeria. My daughter was born in the United States because we could do that at the time. I understand the dangers of having anchor babies and bringing in people who genuinely hate your country. That's a problem. And I'll call it as it is. It might, someone might see this and say, oh, aren't you such a hypocrite? Your daughter is already an anchor baby. Look, when you have, the only reason, and I'll say this, the only reason why all of this is happening is because people who hated or who hate the United States have used these loopholes to gain a foothold in the United States, forcing conservatives like President Trump to begin to say, okay, we need to take a second look at birthright citizenship. When you have someone who is a birthright citizen because they were born there, but their parents hate the United States, and they teach their kids to hate the United States, you're creating problems for the country. In 2 generations, you're going to see that problem emerge. You guys can tell that I'm very, very upset about this, and I don't even live in the United States. Oh God, I have to choose my topics a lot better. Okay, so someone will watch me and think that I live in Wisconsin. I don't. Intergalactic Wrangler says birthright citizenship is bogus without rules. Yeah, there has to be rules. There has to be rules. There has to be rules. And even if you wanted to argue the fact that tampering with it is a bit extreme, there has to be a requirement that the people who take advantage of these loopholes have to love America. You have to love America. The moment you show that your values are antithetical to the founding principles of the United States, you get out and you lose your citizenship. It's really that. How hard can it be? Do you agree with that, Intergalactic Wrangler? Canary King? Do you agree? Someone else, now someone followed the channel on Kick, and I forgot to recognize them. Sorry about that. But I got so wired into this conversation. Now my family is leaving for an event in a few minutes. So I'm going to have to do a hard out. Okay, so before I go, I want to give you guys a couple of minutes to kind of give me your thoughts in the chat. Or if you just want to say goodbye. And I'll see you tomorrow. So Intergalactic Wrangler agrees with my thoughts. Now, maybe tomorrow we can actually dive deeper into this. Canary King, Intergalactic Wrangler, do you think we can have a conversation around this? Because I feel like American citizens are pussyfooting around this topic because no one wants to appear to be a bigot. It's totally okay for me, an immigrant, on the outside to ask you guys if you've lost your minds. And no one will think, and you know what? The only people that will have an issue with it are people who just want to shut me down and tell me to be quiet and claim that I'm saying all of this so that I'll be accepted by the white folk. All right. So let's do a hard out. Tomorrow I'll be going live again, same time, 12 noon Eastern time. Canary King, see you tomorrow. Intergalactic Wrangler, maybe commit 5 years to commerce or join the military to ensure citizenship. Just a thought. Look, there has to be a requirement. I agree with you, Intergalactic Wrangler. Now, I'm going to go live tomorrow. I'm hoping that I'll have both of you on at the same time. I'm going to do some research to see if I can pull you guys into a voice call. I want to see if that's possible. And then I can, then we can just kind of, do this properly. But I'll think about it tonight. And if it's possible, I'll do a post on the YouTube community page. Just let you guys know, hey, this is how you can join and so on. Dr. Cross, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. Thank you guys so much for being a part of today's live stream. You guys made my day, and I hope I made yours. Right, I have to go take my family somewhere. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 12 noon Eastern time, same place. I'll see you. God bless you and have a great rest of your day.